All right, so as course designers, you know that finding or creating visually consistent images for your course content can be a real challenge. It's a real time tiger, right? To find that right image, that consistent image across an entire course. An average course probably has 20, 30, 40 or more images in the course. But what if you could generate the perfect image for your course, custom, on theme, and cohesive in no time? So no more scrolling through stock photos. I'm going to show you how AI Assistant in Storyline can do just that. Save you a ton of time finding the right image. Let me show you how that works. So in this first slide, I have a welcome slide for my employee health and wellness course. I'm using a stock image that looks pretty good. One of the challenges with stock photos is that they don't have that consistent look and feel as you move from slide to slide. You move from stock photo to stock photo. There's different photographers, different lighting, and just doesn't really have that cohesive look. So we'll look at how we can really work with the AI generated images, not only to come up with the image that matches the style and the context that we're looking for, but also to help create a visual cohesiveness across our course. So here's what we're going to do. First thing I want to do is just get rid of this image. Goodbye. And let's come up here to the Home tab on the ribbon, and then you can see we have the options here for Insert Image. We'd also see those images available to us under the Insert tab as well. So we can insert image and bring this open. All right, so here is the Generate AI image window. We need to just add a description for the type of image we're looking for. So for this opening slide, just something like a modern office that encourages or highlights employee health and wellness. Now here's the neat part. We have the different styles. So these are the ready-made styles. You can see a preview of them with our little cat here. You can see, get an idea of how these are going to look. So what I would recommend when you're just getting started is really take the same prompt and then insert each of the images into different slides, just so you get an idea of how these different styles look. One that I really like is the Painterly. So I'll select Painterly. And here's what's really neat. You get to see the actual prompt that we're using. So you could copy that and then modify it. And then there's even a custom prompt option, which we'll look at, where you could make variations of this. So I'll stick with this Painterly. You have the aspect ratio. I know I want the landscape view because this is going to go on the homepage slide, which is the full width slide. And let's go and just generate the image. So what's happening here is this is happening in real time. So Storyline is going to generate 4 different previews for us to see really if that image is getting close to what we like. It's just fantastic with the style right here. I really like that paintery or the paint or watercolory kind of style. Now, when we have these here, one thing that I almost always do when I'm building a course right now is I'm going to add these to media library. So I may only want one image right here, but I don't know later down the line I might want to use that image or a similar image later. So I might just come in here and add some of these images to my media library just so they're available to me. And then I start to think about, okay, well, let's just drill down into this first image. So we click View, get an idea right here, and then we've got the thumbnails. But fantastic styling right here. You've got the plants, you've got the watercolor styles, adds that splash of color. And if you find one you like, you can insert it from here, or we can click Cancel just to get back to this view, find the image that you like, and click Insert. Fantastic. Now I'd probably move that to the back just so it fits underneath everything. And like anything, I might need to crop it a little bit just to bring it in and make it work for this image. Fantastic. Now, a couple other things you can do, and if you're starting to look at your course, you think, well, I've got this kind of this mix match styles that are going on in my course. Maybe I could come in and start to refine the images. So we could actually replace images that already exist and replace them with AI generated images. So what we can do is just select the image, we can right click, and we can replace that picture. So we could choose a file, content library, media library, but nope, we're going to generate an image with AI. So we'll click that, and that brings open. Notice how it remembers the previous style that we used, the Painterly, which is really helpful when you're going through this in a production process. Now I'm going to drop in a prompt here for that square image just to depict healthy physical health in an office. Now down below the aspect ratio, we have the square and we have a portrait option. These will generate images and the composition will be suited to the actual aspect ratio. So even though you can crop images, it's best to really select the general aspect ratio that you're going for. So in this case, I think that's mostly square. That'll probably be the best choice. Okay, and we'll generate that image. And again, AI is going to go through the process, generating those 4 preview images for us. If I like them overall, I can go ahead and click them and keep them in my media library. So this one, it added some text, which I don't think I want, but I do like these. And I'll grab those. And then I think this one probably seems like the happiest image. So I'll click replace. And now I could go through the images in my course just to use that to create that consistent style, that consistent visual voice for my course. Now, one last thing I want to do is highlight what we can also do with images, and that is to use your own custom prompts. So I'm going to come back in this, I say this first one here, and let's bring in a new image. So we'll say insert image. So I'm going to drop in that same prompt we used earlier for that homepage image. It's choose in painterly, which is the previous style. And then we also have the previous aspect ratio. So this time I'll say use a widescreen. But I'm going to come down here to my custom. So I scroll all the way down and choose custom. I have a custom prompt that I dropped in here. But what's really nice, though, let's say that you liked a lot of what you saw with the painterly. You could copy that prompt, come down here to the custom style, and then start to modify, select it, whatever is in there, paste it, and then you can modify aspects of this to get the version of the painting that you like. So maybe it's not a watercolor, right? Maybe it's an oil painting technique or something like that. So you could slightly modify. And then once you have something refined the way you like, I would copy it to a separate document and use that as the prompt that you use going forward. So for example, let me just show you one that I've been using is a kind of inspired by national park posters. So let me show you what I was using for this course before I got started. So it's going to go through and generate 4 of those parks, but it's going to be these earth tone colors and mutings based on national park posters. So you've got the mountains in the background. Absolutely love this one. I'll just drop that in real quick. But that's kind of the look and feel I was going for when I was first building the course. I thought, okay, come up with something that inspires you, that you enjoy, create a custom prompt around that, and then copy and paste that each time for your custom prompts if you don't want to use any one of the built-ins, or take the built-ins and then make a variation of that one for you. All right, folks, that's how easy it is to use AI Assistant in Storyline to create custom images in just a few clicks, giving you so much more control over your visuals. Now your courses can look exactly as you want with a cohesive look and really the perfect images to align with your content. All right, how many times have you recorded audio narration for your course only to realize after everything's been recorded and dropped into Storyline that maybe the tone is off, there's ambient noise that's just kind of weird, or maybe the pacing just feels off? It can feel like it'll take forever to fix regardless of how good you are at audio editing. But here is a game changer. With AI Assistant in Storyline, you can create realistic, professional narration in no time. No voice actors, no recording booth. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this now. Seriously, come on. Let me show you how easy it is to create and customize a voice that fits your course perfectly. So I'm working on this intro slide here for my health and wellness course, and I want to narrate this intro text here for just welcoming learners to the course, and I'd like to have an AI generated voice do that for me. So here's how it works. We're going to come up here to the Home tab on the ribbon, and we're going to choose to insert audio, and I'm going to choose text to speech. So this pulls open the text to speech option. Actually, we can access all of 3 of these from the same window right here, but we're working on text to speech. You can see we have the voice styles right here, so I can choose any of these to add for my voice. And what I can do when I select that is I can either copy and paste in the text from my that I want to be narrated, or I can actually add that text from my slide notes, which I already have in there. So this course introduces. All right, cool. So we can generate closed captions at the same time. And we also have some advanced settings down here for really customizing the voice. Now, I'd recommend the first time you go through this, just use the default settings and then start to play with them. The one that I would play with a little bit, probably the most, is the style exaggeration. And you can see what this does. It just basically amplifies that style of the original speaker. And it also creates some variance. So anything over 50, they're going to give you a little warning right here. But I'll start playing with this one a little bit. And then I might even have it be a little less stable, just to create more inflection, a little bit more randomness in there. But again, these sliders are just to play with, but I would always just go with the default first, see what you get, and then start to play with those settings afterwards. All right, so I'm going to keep Laura, and I have my text in here. Let's go ahead and generate that speech. That's going to take just a moment to do that. That was super quick, actually. And here, let me just play the audio. All right, click play.
This course introduces our new workplace health program, which promotes fun activities and supportive policies to encourage healthy habits at work.
All right, cool. So we can start to look at maybe exaggerating that style a little bit, see what happens. maybe a little less similar just to see what else it can introduce. Let's try it again now here. We'll generate the speech. So it takes a second to regenerate that. And then let's play that one.
This course introduces our new workplace health program, which promotes fun activities and supportive policies to encourage healthy habits at work.
Okay, so if you like that, thing I would do is I'd come in here and I would take a screenshot or write down the settings that you're using if you're going to stick with the same voice, just so that you can recreate those if you're using that same voice later in your course. I like how that sounds. I'm going to go ahead and just click Insert, and that'll add that audio clip just to the timeline, and I can do all the other things I like to do, maybe have some animations or fade in the text as it comes in, synchronize some graphics to that audio, but I now have that AI-generated, really lifelike voice added to my slide. All right, that's how easy it is to generate professional narration with AI Assistant. No recording booth, no hassle, just lifelike narration ready for your course. Now you're all set to begin adding high-quality audio that matches your content perfectly. I just have to figure out how to take this off the walls now. All right, see you next time. Thanks. Adding the right sound effects to your course can take a lot of, well, in fairness, adding the sound effects is easy. Finding the right sound effects to your course can take time, a lot of time, especially when nothing seems to just quite fit or feel right. But with AI Assistant and Storyline, you can generate custom audio that fits your content in just seconds. So come on, let me show you how easy it is with AI Assistant. So I'm on this intro screen right here, and I'd like to narrate this. I know that I'm not the best narrator for the project, so let me do this real quick. I'm just going to copy the text, Control-C to copy, and drop it down here in the Notes panel. This is where the narration script would appear in your player. But I want this text here because I can use this to copy and paste for the text-to-speech, just like it works for the regular text-to-speech. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to come on up here to the ribbon, and under Audio, we have three options. We have the text-to-speech, voices, and sound effects. It kind of doesn't matter what you start with here, because once we pop open any one of these, they're all available to you. So it just depends on which one you want selected when you get in here, but you have the text-to-speech, the voices, and the sound effects. So sound effects, straightforward. Describe the type of sound effect you like. We could say maybe a sound of a busy restaurant with sounds of dishes and plates, right? Something like that, and background talking. And then we come down and we say, what's the duration? So by default, AI Assist is going to try to choose the best length for you. But if you wanted something a little bit longer, maybe 5 seconds, you could do that. You also have the prompt influence. So this is helpful. You can use the scale really to make the generation follow more literally or less literally to the prompt that you created. As always, when you're getting started, I leave the defaults and then I go from there. I start to modify and just really tweak after I get those initial settings set up. But I'd leave the default and then just generate sound effect. Pretty fast here. You're going to get four options off to the side, which is really nice because each one's going to be a little bit different. But sometimes they're different enough that you're glad that you got all four choices. And then you could just check these out. Just click each one of these to play them. So fantastic ambient sounds, right? When you want to use that as the background, maybe that's how you overlay your narration on top of that. But just a great use. You can add each of these to your media library. I'll just add each one. I like these. These are things that you could use later on anyway. So that's the sound effects, button effects, anything like that. Just type it in and you can generate those sounds. Now with the voices, you have these character voices, and these are just levels above anything that we've had before. So you can click each one of these character voices.
Our distrust is very expensive.
So the descriptions are going to be really important. So you have your filters up top. So you have gender, age, and accent. You can see those right here. But then you also have really this last part, this last keyword, which kind of indicates more about the style that you're going to see. So yeah, something like a news voice.
Just trust yourself, then you will know how to live.
Compare that with like a character voice.
Government of the people, by the people.
Right, a little bit more dramatic, more that reminds me of that BBC radio, just a radio drama. So you have those different styles that you can use, and of course you can drill down and sort differently that way. I'm going to go ahead and just choose Alice. So I'll just click use, And now we're taken to the text-to-speech. But we could have started with text-to-speech and just found the voices here from the drop-down. So you have a lot of access to this. We just give you some choices for how you want to enter for the AI audio generation, what you're going to focus on. So once you have it here, you've got the voice. But if you wanted to come down and select a different voice or preview it, you could do that as well. Now, from the text right here, this is something that you can use from your slide notes, just like we have with the other text. You could type it in here, or you can just copy and paste from your slide notes, which is why I pasted that into there. And then we have closed captions. You can automatically generate closed captions along with the audio. Such a time saver. Advanced settings. And again, always like to start with the default settings, and then I move from there. So style exaggeration is one I like to play with. If you go over 50%, you'll see that it kind of gives you that little warning that it may cause instability. But essentially, you get these little alerts that tell you what that does. But I do like style exaggeration because that kind of creates a little variety, more variety in the voice. And you have stability and similarity. So I'm just going to reset the defaults, and then let's generate that speech and see what it sounds like. So it should be finished. Here we go. And we'll say, let's see.
Welcome to our workplace health program. We aim to create a friendly environment focused.
That is fantastic, right? So we could add that also to the media library. Then I could also come down and choose to insert that right here on the slide. Now, the closed captions, remember how we kept that enabled? Come up here to options, and we can choose to edit our captions. The captions are automatically generated for us. If you need to make any modifications to them, you certainly can, but you have those captions already created for you. What's interesting here, I wanted to play it.
We aim to create.
There's little breaths in the audio. I mean, how realistic is that, right? I spend all the time removing breaths from my audio to make it cleaner, but for the digital version, they're actually creating little breaths in there to add that sense of realism, right? So listen.
This course is the...
So funny. But if you wanted to modify that audio, you could obviously use Storyline's audio editor and remove the breath. But I just think that from a realism perspective, that is just incredible. I'm going to close out. I don't need to save. I might like what I have. I don't make any changes. But now I have the closed captions and that fantastic audio that's already generated. And since I also created the background ambient sound, maybe I also want to drop in that audio clip that I already saved to media library. So we come down here, audio, media library, and then I have my sound effects, sound of a busy restaurant. I drop that in, and then maybe I just need to duplicate that, right, just to keep that looping. Can't put it on same, right? So I could kind of string those together to create that ambient sound. Let's see.
Welcome to our workplace health program. We aim to create a friendly environment.
I'd probably come in and edit this audio to reduce the volume a little bit, but that's just a nice way to add additional context or to help set that scene for your narration audio, and also for whatever content slide that you're presenting, as a way to kind of transport the learner to that location. All right, adding sound effects has never been this easy. With AI Assistant, you can create the perfect sound effect in no time, taking your learner's experience to the next level and bringing your content to life. All right, let's say you're working in your course and you've got some content here on the slide and you just want to see what it might look like in a different format. Maybe you want to make a scenario out of it, or maybe you just want to create some other type of interaction. So you don't just have to use AI Assistant to come up with something from scratch, write about or create something from scratch. We can actually ask AI Assistant to work with existing content that we have here on the slide, and then use that as the basis or the foundation for creating an interaction. So let me show you what this looks like here. So if I drill down into this slide, I've got my work-life balance slide, and what I want to do is create a scenario out of this content. So I'm just going to select that content, or I could just click inside, and then from the ribbon up here, I can choose to edit text. And so you can see right here, automatically recognizes all that text here in the slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, please create. Or, I always say please. I don't know. Do I need to say please? I feel appreciative. I don't know. So let's say create a branching scenario. So I'm just going to say branching scenario from this content, and create say content, and so I say using the 3C scenario model that Tom always shows. So this content using the challenge, choice, and consequence. consequence scenario model. So let's see what happens. So we're talking about work-life balance, maintaining healthy division. So I don't even have to specify any of this, the content here. It's already going to use this content as the basis for the scenario. So we'll see what we get right here. Now with AI, sometimes you get exactly what you want the first time, sometimes you don't. You have a demanding project deadline approaching, but you also have a family event. I think this is pretty good. I would like to have at least 3 or 4 choices. So let's say create, let's just say create again with 3 choices and 3 consequences, and bold each choice and consequence. Let's see what happens. It just makes it easier for me to follow. All right, so let's see what happens. So we're going to ask it to go back and just really try again. Choice 1, choice 2. Look at that. Perfect. So I'm not going to replace this text. I need this content. This content's actually the content I'm using as the basis. It's the presentation layer of my content. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose copy, and I've got everything I need right there. I'm going to get out of here, and let's just bring in a new slide, and let's just make that blank, right? Something we can work with. And then Control T, that's my favorite shortcut to add a text box, and then I'm just going to replace this, and let's just say Control A, Control V. So there we go. There's my content that I can use for my challenge, choice, and consequence, and it's all leveraging the same content right there on the slide. So you don't have to create all that from scratch. You can use the existing content on your slide. The reason I think what I like to show a lot of times with AI Assistant is to start from scratch. It's just to really look at that text box as an open window, an open prompt for whatever really you want to do, or just about whatever you want to do, but you don't have to always start with something specific. But in this case, yeah, we actually worked from the existing content to create that scenario. Now, one last thing I'll show you, it's a little bit different here. If I select this text and edit, there's actually a scenario option in here. It's not going to be the same thing, but I think it's so helpful. If I scroll down here, and we have this option to create a scenario. And so what does that do? Well, it's going to take that content and it's going to write out really a narrative type scenario. And you can see how that content is right here, right? So imagine a busy manager, Lisa, who works at a leading advertising. So this is another way you could use as the initial setup. Maybe this is a little bit more context. You're kind of transporting the learner into that environment. And then you can create those challenge, choice, and consequences, those choices and consequences for that scenario. But check this out. This is also a fantastic way to really break down more complex content and create a relatable scenario that you could use to flesh out as either an interaction or as text. So let me just do this one more time, and I'll put that side by side to kind of see how each of these might work. So Control V. So imagine a busy manager, and then we could even come in here and say, okay, based on this, and now create a challenge, a branching scenario, right, with the same content using what we just had right there with that scenario. So we just kind of expanded that and then created that more of that narrative format. All right, well, that's just a couple different ways that you can use AI Assistant to really just go beyond the default prompts, get a little bit away from what's already recommended or suggested, and do something just a little bit different using that AI Assistant prompt. Hey folks, so another common challenge that we all face as course designers is it's not really coming up with the idea for an interaction. Ideas often, that's like the easy part a lot of times. But the bigger challenge is coming up with the right content for the interaction. So let me tell you what I mean. So let's say that you're designing a simple drag and drop interaction. You decide that drag and drop is the interaction that you want, but you don't have the right content. You don't have the choices, the drag items, the drop correct choices, the drop incorrect choices, and all the feedback that goes with that. Well, the good news is that that's where AI Assist can step in and really do that heavy lifting for you. It can generate the relevant choices that make your interactions engaging and effective. It can create the feedback for the correct and incorrect drop choices. So let me do this. I'm going to jump into Storyline and just show you how AI Assistant can really take the guesswork out of creating the perfect interactive content. Okay, so I'm starting here in Story View, and let's just jump into a slide here. And I am working on my Camping Essentials course. I want to create a drag and drop activity for really just choosing the correct and incorrect gear for camping. So this is a good example of a use case for AI Assistant to kind of help me out. Let me give me some ideas on some things I can do right here. So here we go. I'm going to say insert text. and I need to get some help writing a drag and drop activity. So let's see what we say. Create a drag and drop activity. So I'm just kind of winging it here. Activity, focusing on items to bring on camping, right? Bring on camping, and items to leave at home. So we'll say list for correct drag choices. So I kind of do this a little bit different each time, and it also gives a little different return results each time, but this is the general format. So I'm going to say 4 correct and 3 incorrect choices, and we'll just see what we get right here. So just click OK, and we'll see what we get. Now, sometimes it comes out a couple different ways. So this time it's putting in a list. Now, sometimes it doesn't separate them. So I was prepared to do a second round where I would say list or group the items into correct headings for what to bring and what not to bring. This time it did. So that's just the random nature. I didn't include it in the instructions, but just be prepared that sometimes you don't get this. It's one long list, and then you can follow up. But I don't have feedback. I do see which ones are correct and incorrect, but I do want some feedback. So I wanted to kind of break this down into steps. I find it usually works a lot better this way. So while I have that right there, I'm going to say, okay, provide feedback for each choice. And I'm just going to ask for, tell me why each is correct and incorrect, each choice, and explain why each is correct or incorrect. Let's see something like that. It's not usually how I write it, but we'll see what we get. So it's shorter. Sometimes I can get a little bit longer, not needed for outdoors. So what I could do is insert that just to get it. Oh, I guess I realized I should have probably had a blank slide, right? And then, so there's my activity. I've got my choices and my feedback. And if I wanted to maybe come in here and I could expand on this, right? So maybe I could say, we'll edit this and see if we can't get a little bit more info. I mean, obviously I could fill this in, explain in detail why each list item is best left at home and not brought for camping, or something like that. Again, not the world's greatest prompter here, but I'm just trying to get a AI assistant to help out. There we go. Look at that. So I can expand, not needed for outdoors. I'm not sure why it said correct. Oh, I'm sorry. I see what it's doing now. So if I put these in the wrong, yeah. So these are the correct items for the leave at home drop target. So just, I can see where I might have been a bad prompt on my part, but do you see what's going on? So there is a correct, but that's where it would go. That's assuming I put these on the leave at home drop target. So I'll say replace selection, and I have some more info, but I probably really don't need this. It would be actually, well, it's correct if they get that, but I would use the same for either choice. And here's, using this activity right here. This is one I built out a little earlier. So I have to bring the items you want to bring in and off the trip, and you can see where the drag and drop items, coffee maker, nowhere to plug that in unless you have a portable generator. But just a really fast way to get some content for working on a course. Doesn't mean you can't refine it. The expectation is you probably will do a little bit more refining and expanding on the content. But when you're looking for interaction ideas and just something like this, I find this is a really big help, especially when you're trying to work quickly. And that's just another way to use AI Assistant for helping you out with some interactions. All right, folks. Well, that's how AI Assistant can help you take a simple idea for an interaction like a drag and drop and really help you turn it into something more complete. So whether it's generating the right choices or challenges or even the feedback for a drag and drop concept, AI Assistant can help you take all those ideas from concept to interaction in no time. All right, folks, if you are anything like me, then you know that designing relevant scenario content, that can be kind of a real challenge. It's not easy to not only find or design or create meaningful challenges and choices, but then also to create the feedback or the consequences that feels relevant and truly engages our learner. But here is the good news. With AI Assistant, it's going to take a lot of that heavy lifting off our shoulders. So let me show you what I mean. So with AI Assistant, we can specify the type of challenge or scenario that we're looking for, the number of choices, and of course the number of consequences. And AI Assistant is going to generate those realistic branching scenarios for us. It's going to help our learners build their critical thinking skills. And then, best of all, it's going to feel like it was handcrafted. So let me show you how it works here in Storyline. All right, so I'm starting here in Story View. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to jump into a slide, and let's create a scenario here for this physical health module in our employee health course. I'm going to use the challenge, choice, and consequence model that Tom Kuhlman always shares. So here's what we'll do. Let's create first just a new slide because we need some new content. So new slide, and look at that. That has a lot of placeholders. So let's just do this. If we do apply layout, we can say blank. Okay. So that's what I just want is the text right here. So let's go ahead and open up the insert text option from AI Assistant, and we can do that from several places. We can see it's up here under the Home tab, and then we'd also see it under the Insert tab as well. So just choose Insert Text. Now here's the thing, and you'll hear me say this over and over in my AI Assistant training, and that is we have these options down below. These are just prompts to help you get started, but you don't have to use those. You can treat this prompt field really as any type of AI prompt you want. It can't do everything, but it can do a lot more than what's revealed. What's revealed down here is really just to help you get started. So I'm going to copy this prompt right here that I've created, or it's really not a prompt, it's just a series of text. Actually, I'll type it out so you can see what I'm saying. It's absolutely not a formal prompt. So I'll say create a challenge scenario, and I want to focus on the benefits of regular exercise using the challenge. Whoops, sorry about that. Challenge, choice, and consequence. So this is Tom's model, consequence, scenario model, format. Okay. And now I want to give some specifics. I want to say list 4 choices. So these are the challenge choices, list 4 choices, and below the choices, list 4 consequences. Now, I've tried this a bunch of different ways. It doesn't really matter how you write this out. You don't have to copy it verbatim, and then I'll just say indicate the one correct choice. So what you'll find is, with AI, any type of AI, you sometimes have to do variations of it. But essentially, I'm saying create a scenario model, create a scenario on benefits of regular exercise using challenge, choice, and consequence. Give me 4 choices, and then indicate the one correct choice. So I find this helpful because sometimes you'll see multiple correct choices, and maybe that's not what you want. So we'll see what happens right here. So it's not going to build the scenario. It will give me a fantastic scenario, gives me my choices and my consequences, and then from here, I'm just going to insert it. And look at that. I've got a challenge, choice, and consequence model. I've got my correct choice down here, and I can take this now and build out a simple scenario using the content right here. If I needed to do anything like revising the text here, I can select the text. Sorry, just a little faster. And I could say, well, maybe revise the scenario, improve the writing, and so on. But essentially, I have something more than what I started with, a minute or two ago, and I have a scenario that's tied to my content here. All right, well, that's how AI Assistant can help you generate meaningful scenarios, including the actual challenge, the number of choices, and of course, the consequences for your learners. All right, so if you're tired of catching those tiny grammar mistakes, or maybe you're not even catching them yourself, someone else is catching them in QA, or worst case, even the course is already live and the grammar mistakes or the typos are coming just out at that point. That's when you're finding them. Or maybe you notice that the tone just across your course feels different, almost like there's 3 or 4 different writers working on the course, which in fairness probably isn't always could be the case too, right? But here's a great fix. AI Assistant in Storylines automatically polishes your text so your course sounds consistent, professional, and reads smoothly. It's also going to find all those little pesky typos and grammar issues that your course has. So come on, let me show you how it works here in Storyline. All right, so I'm starting here in Story View, and let's just dive into a scene right here. And so let me just walk you through some of the ways that I'm using the spelling and grammar updates just to verify that things are really tight before I publish and share my course. So you can see this storyline obviously recognizes spelling errors, but it doesn't necessarily catch grammar errors, right? So if you look up here, attaining optimal work-life balance yields, so that should be AN, right? Unoptimal, and yields acomprehensive, not uncomprehensive, right? So there's certain things that storyline spell checking is just not going to catch on its own. And this is a fantastic way to use AI Assistant. So what I would do is, just as a final pass, I would just say, click inside a text box, click Control A to select it all, pop open AI Assistant, and I'm just going to click Fix Spelling and Grammar Issues. And I'm just going to run that and do a final check on it. Especially since, a lot of e-learning is designed really so quickly at the speed of business. A lot of times folks are writing directly in the slide, or maybe they're doing all of the writing and the drafting and the editing all of themselves, so they don't have a lot of help. So I'm just going to come in, say fix spelling and grammar errors. I think I already did that. And no, I didn't do it yet. So fix spelling and grammar. Let's see what we have here. Achieving an optimal workforce, right? And you can see that we have all those updated. So I'm just going to say replace selection. And that's fantastic. So I could come through each of these real quick. Again, spelling errors, but not always grammar errors here in the default spell check and storyline, and just choose fix spelling and grammar errors. It's a fantastic way to put just a final pass on your work, ensuring that everything is as tight as it can be. So another way we could also do this is to ask AI Assistant to improve the writing. So a lot of writing that comes to us, well, let's fix the spelling and grammar here. But a lot of the writing that comes to us is maybe more technical than it needs to be, since a lot of our content comes from subject matter experts who maybe have more of that regulatory, that legal, that academic type background. So when I see a lot of the sentences here, a lot of this feels just a little bit passive. So what I might do after running that spell check, let's just say replace, and we have it. And then we could come back in here, open up AI Assistant. I would do this all together, but I just wanted to kind of accept each update and then start over, would be to improve the writing. So with this one, Storyline's going to go through and look for a way to make that writing a lot easier to read. Now, when you're doing this in Storyline, one thing I would probably do, if it's a short graph like this one, even though I still can't quite see it all, I may just replace the selection. But in longer blocks of text, if you're working maybe with what I had before with maybe 2 paragraphs or more, I would copy the text. Now, when I'm working in Rise, I tend to use the insert below because Rise has that vertical, that portrait page layout. So it's really easy to see the 2 blocks on top of each other. But if I insert this below, it's going to put it in below this existing text box, which means I'll have to hide these objects down here. Oops. I don't know where my emojis just came from. Sorry about that. I'd have to hide these and drag that box down to view it. So what I would probably do is just say copy it, and then I might just cancel out of here, and then I can drop in another text box, just a regular text box, the old school text box, and then drop that text in there. And let's hide the picture. Where is that picture? Way down here. And then I can compare and contrast the 2 of these just to see if it's doing what I was hoping it would, which it seems to have done. But then I can look at the 2 before I go back and then replace something that's already there, because I'm not gonna have that concept of drafts. AI Assistant's not retaining my data, so I need to verify that this update is what I want, and it is what I want. So that's what I could do is say select all, cut it, come back in here, and then just paste and match that existing style. And then let's see if I have my paragraph breaks. Yep. So that's another way that I would do a quick pass, just to make my writing just a little bit easier on my learners for being able to read. All right, now your text isn't just polished, it's perfect. With AI Assistant handling the grammar and the tone adjustments and the spelling and the typos and all of that, you can focus on really the bigger picture, right? Building great content, building meaningful interactions, all the stuff that's kind of the fun stuff for us, not all that busy work. But that's how easy it is to really keep your course looking and sounding professional with AI Assistant in Storyline 360.